But I know that we are now live on all the platforms, Kimberly, so I'll just start with a brief introduction to those that may not know you or the Double 11 business. Frankly, I think if they don't, they might have been living under a rock for the last few years, because delighted to have Kimberly Turner, the award-winning finance director of the award-winning Double 11 with us today, or to explore the growth journey of your own career and that of Double 11, Kimberly. So perhaps that's a nice place to start. Maybe you can, before we explore your own career and what led you into a career in accounting and finance and to the upper echelons of what you've achieved today, maybe you can just give us a brief overview of the business. Obviously, I can see some nice touches in the background there which touch on what the business does, but yeah, give us a brief overview of Double 11 if you can, in your words.
Yeah, of course, and thanks for a lovely introduction, Paul. Double 11 for the last 13, 14 years has been a video games developer and publisher. We've got lots of different strands to the business, but ultimately we put video games to market for consumers globally. We've worked on some of the biggest IPs in the world, like Minecraft for Mojang and Microsoft. We also license IP and work on that and put it out on our own markets with our publishing team. We've started as a couple of people in a loft back at the end of 2009 to being 360 people today across 2 different continents. We have our headquarters here in Middlesbrough, and we also have a satellite office in Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia.
Fantastic. And tell us some about the awards that you've won over recent times.
Oh, God. I mean, I can remember our very first one, which was a small event at the Riverside Stadium. And we won something, I think it was either in 2010 or right at the beginning of 2011, that was like the best new business on Teesside. And yeah. I just remember how ecstatic we were, not just to win, but then there was like an overall winner of the night. And we won that as well. And I think that was probably the first time we thought, oh, we might be doing something quite good here. Other ones, probably, I think 2021, we won the Northeast's Company of the Year, which was really good. That was off the back of a really successful game that kind of catapulted not only the business in terms of scale, but obviously financially into a very different level. So that one meant a lot. And for me, obviously, I was Teesside's Businesswoman of the Year last year. Someone's going to take that away from me in September. So
do you get
I'm going to enjoy that for a little bit longer. But I think for me as well, to be recognised that day on more of a personal level, and my personal contribution to the business as well was... yeah, that was really wonderful. And there's been loads, obviously, in between industry-based things. We were nominated for a BAFTA for our work on Little Big Planet, which is a big franchise a few years ago, to name a few. But yeah, there are a few that stick out.
And do you still get as excited as you did with the first award?
Yeah. But I think initially I used to sit, and then this well of adrenaline used to come up, and it used to feel like it was suffocating me, whether I was waiting to find out whether we'd won or not. I'm not as bad as that anymore. I think I get that initial like, ooh, is it going to be us? And then, yeah, and then it kind of floats away. But years ago, the Northeast Business Awards used to stand the 3 nominees on the stage, and you had to stand in front of everyone waiting to find out whether you'd won or not, which I just think is terrible, especially if you haven't got a good bit of loser face. But luckily they don't do that anymore.
Absolutely, yeah. You've got to have a good poker face and do the old, yeah. Well done, congratulations.
Mine left anyway. A lot to be desired usually.
Well, well done. You know, fantastic to acknowledge the success of Double 11, and you individually as well, you know, really putting Teesside on the map and the Northeast on the map. You know, it is an international success, not just a regional success. So, yeah, congratulations.
Thanks,
but in terms of your own career, then, what led you into a career in accounting and finance?
Oh, yeah. I think I didn't really want to know. I didn't know what I wanted to be when I was younger. I did the usual, you know, air hostess, PE teacher. And then I think when I got to careers age, like when you're at school, and obviously when I was there, they had the box with all the little alphabetical order, little cards in so that you could pick. I sat down with the career woman, and I think I genuinely felt lost as to to what I was going to say. And I think that was the first time I saw a shift, because what I actually said to the woman was, I want to wear a suit and carry a briefcase, which sounds terrible because, I don't wear a suit or carry a briefcase.
No.
But I think what I was trying to say in that moment, without being able to articulate myself very well, was that I wanted to work in business.
Yeah.
So I wasn't saying, I want to look like this and I want to carry that. I think what I was trying to say is I want to be a professional. I want to have a career. I think I'd like to be a businesswoman. I just didn't get it across very well. And then the first card in the alphabetical order was obviously accountant.
Accountant.
So I probably felt that I'd made a fool of myself by saying what I said. And obviously I was only about 14, 15 at the time. I just took the nearest thing. But I think I was interested, and that was more like a sign to pick up. So yes, I think when I left school, I still didn't really know what I wanted to do, apart from the fact that I did want to explore a career in business, whatever that meant. I did a advanced business GMVQ or whatever it was back in the day, 1998, I think, at Sixth Form College in Durham. And then from there, I did the equivalent of like an accounts technician qualification, but I did that with the Open University because I didn't really want to go to university. When I left sixth form with 2 AA levels in business, I really just wanted to get a job, and I wanted to be independent, and I wanted a car. So I got a job in a call centre. And I stayed there for quite a few years. While all my friends were bumming around at university, I kind of bummed around but got paid for doing it, which worked quite well for me. I drove a car out of the showroom, I think, when I was 18 years old, thinking I was the bee's knees. But I think after a couple of years, I knew that could do more than what I was doing, and I wanted more. So I found this Open University course in accounting, which I did on a night when I got in from work. And the aim of that was to get my foot in the door at an accountancy firm. And I've only ever looked one step ahead of where I was going. I've never had some big dream to be, anything in particular.
Yeah.
Just always known what the next step was. And a company called Torgerson's in Sunderland, even though no one recognised the qualification that was only halfway through at the time, I think they went out on a limb a little bit with me, and gave me a job in their accounts team, obviously as a junior. And, I like to think that I was fast and I was thorough. I finished my accountant technician qualification, and they paid for me to do my chartered, which was amazing. But I think after 3 years of working full time and doing my chartered exams and studying on a night, I think I just knew that I didn't really want to work in practice. I wanted to be in business. I wanted to be in industry. I didn't really know at the time in what form. So when I finished my chartered qualification, I started looking for jobs, and that's when I applied to get a job at Hargreaves in their group accounts, which was a wonderful first step into industry, a great group of companies to work for. I had a lot of respect for the management team and the board of directors, and it was really fast paced, and I learned a lot, except I wasn't there very long, because Lee, our CEO from Double 11, had decided to quit his job at, I think it was Rockstar in Leeds that he was working for at the time, and he was just going to do some subcontracting. Anyway, long story short, he set up a limited company. One of his colleagues from Rockstar joined him, and they went out looking for work, and they found themselves in the right place at the right time. And I started then doing lots of stuff for Lee on the side. For those of you that don't know, the CEO of Double 11, whilst we look very different, is my brother. There's only 18 months between us. He's the oldest.
Get that in there.
Yeah. And we've always been very close. So I worked during the day at Hargreaves, and I'm not stupid. So I did, of course, make Lee pay for me to work for him on a night. I did general bookkeeping stuff for him, getting him set up for VAT, sales invoicing, payroll, etc., etc. And I kind of straddled the two jobs probably for about, I'd say about 6 to 7 months. Lee was thinking about hiring a couple more people at this point. And we sat down one day and he just basically said, right, Kimberly, you know, I think it's time, you know, you come on full time. And I was about to have a family. I'd recently got married and I just thought, oh, this is so unsecure. But to be honest, you know, we have always been really close. Lee is a very beautiful mind, and I couldn't look him in the eye and say, I don't believe in you. Mm-hmm. So I handed my notice in at Hargreaves, and off I went into full-time employment with Double 11. That was...
What do you think it was that, was there an event, an issue, something that triggered Lee to say, I need you, chartered accountant, top of the finance tree, full-time? What was it you think in his mind that made that decision?
It was more preparing for what's to come. Lee's very entrepreneurial, and he's always looking so much further ahead than everybody else. He'd rather be proactive than reactive. And I remember after I joined fully, I think I spent the whole Christmas that I was supposed to be off drafting a presentation for Sony Europe. And me and Lee went down to Liverpool to their offices, I think the first or second working day at the beginning of 2011. And we walked out with our first contract, which was over £1 million, which at the time we were just like, wow, did we actually do that?
Yeah. And
to think now, the level of things that I signed with the likes of Microsoft, we just could never, ever, ever have dreamt of back in that day. So yeah, it's been a really wonderful journey. I think for me, from a career perspective, I was ready for this. I was qualified for this. You know, we've grown a lot, and what the business looks like today versus what it did 13 years ago is very different. But because the growth has been organic, we're all learning and we're all adapting as we go. And it's a really, really great career journey to be on. Because we do what we think is best, considering everybody else. I think me, Lee and Mark kind of straddle that CEO role, but we attack it in very different ways. Mine is commercial and finance. Lee's got that entrepreneurial look into the future, and Mark, our operations director, is coming in obviously from an operational perspective. So we make a really, really good team, and what a journey to be on with an actual brother and my brother from another mother, Mark. So yeah, I feel I was prepared for it. I was qualified for it, but I feel very, very lucky at the journey that we've had, and obviously thinking about what's going to happen over the next decade as well.
And for those that might not know where you come from and to in that 13-year period, where was the business turnover when you joined, and where is it now?
I think our very, very first year of full trade, I think even then, our first year, we did about 500,000 or 600,000 in the year. And we didn't have many people. It sounds terrible, but I remember, you know, having to price up a job and me and Lee kind of looking at each other and going, 100 grand? Just thinking, yeah, sounds reasonable. Like, let's just go for it. Whereas now, I think our latest set of accounts that have just been filed, I think we tipped just over a £50 million turnover, which is insane. Again, could never have imagined all those years ago this would be where we are.
And I know we've talked a particularly lean finance team for a beast of a business that size, which is fantastic. Obviously, some of the quick wins that you identified was the Sony contract being part of that win. From a financial perspective, what were the other kind of quick wins that you had coming into the business?
We didn't really have any quick wins. I wouldn't say we worked really hard to get that initial contract, but we were doing other little bits of things to pay the bills trying to get to that. I think the journey of the company's happened in stages. The first couple of years was really cementing ourselves as a really technical team, a strong, stellar team to work with, and to just get the reputation. In the games industry especially, you live and die by your reputation. So that means more to us than anything. So that was the first few years. And then after we finished that game that we signed, we wanted to go into self-publishing. So we restructured the business a little bit at that point to set us up for that. And
What
then
did that look like, that kind of restructure? How did you go about that, and what was it? And what
well,
did it
we'd
become?
saved every penny that we'd earned up to that
Yeah.
point. So we had enough money in the bank to go into self-publishing. And what we thought is we can't build a game from scratch. We haven't done it before. It would take a lot more than we could envisage. So we found a niche for ourselves whereby we could license other people's games. So say someone has a successful game that sells well on Steam where people play by PC. We'll contact those people and say, look, give us the rights to put your game on console. We'll pay for it. We'll put it to the market, and then obviously we'll pay you a royalty. And we've done that loads of times, and the deals are very different to suit the needs of the partner, ourselves, and obviously the product. But our first move into self-publishing, we had to change the makeup of the team. Obviously, we needed a marketing department, so that was all different. And then things got really tricky because our money started to run out. We could see that, we were getting to a point where when we put something to market, it had to make a certain amount. Otherwise, we were going to be in really muddy water. So I think we'd gone from being like a full work from hire studio to going 100% publishing, felt very exposed, and then realised we probably need to build another team to balance the scales so that we weren't betting the farm on anything. And I think what we have today is just a really, really big extension of that.
Right.
So we've got about 9 different products. Some of them are work for hire, which is very traditional service work, bums on seats. But for really, really big IPs, we're working on Fallout. We've got Minecraft in the studio. There's, it's a really successful part of the business, and we deliver well for our clients.
Yeah.
And then under our publishing team, we have games like Rust. So Rust is a game that sold multiple millions on Steam, and we went out for the console rights to that. I think I signed that in June 2018. It didn't come out until June 21, sorry. And I think, that game itself, I'll not give you the exact figures, but that game itself in the year and a half to 2 years we've been publishing it has added probably about 50 million to our turnover.
Wow.
In that period. And we pay a lot of that out to the people that own the license to the game. But being able to have games like that in the studio obviously do create value in the company.
Yeah.
We went from a 9 million turnover company, and then after that game came out, we were at 45, and the game had only been out about 5 months by the time it got to our year end. So it's crazy what one game can do to a business. We didn't even own the game. So one of the other pillars to the business at the moment is own IP. And we are working on some prototypes internally. So, imagine what it would be like to make that kind of money off a game and actually keep all of the profits is an insane thought.
And what were the kind of financial strategies you had to put in place then to cope with that expansion or to facilitate it?
To be honest, Paul, our finances, as much as you would think in a 50 million turnover studio, would be quite high maintenance. I've just hired a financial controller. She's been here 3 weeks.
Yeah.
So that, that shows you what I've juggled probably with the commercial realities of the business and, covering some of that CEO role over the last decade. We get paid well. There's no working capital issues. We don't chase people for money. So in terms of strategies, I think the growth of the business has not necessarily been driven by finances. It's been driven by the needs of our partners.
Okay.
So what we've found in our marketplace is years ago, we would do a game, say it took 8 months to start to finish, then that would go away, and 3 months prior to the end, we'd be looking for work for the team. Whereas now, the games that are on the market, they never go away. You're providing skins, downloadable content. So even when a team has finished a game, they don't kind of come off the game. So we've got games in the studio that we'll work on for the next 3 years, for example, that we signed back in 2008, 2019. So every time somebody new, a new partner or a big player in the industry has come to us to ask us to do something specific for them, we have to build a new team for that. So we're always building the team ready so that when someone knocks on the door, we can already start ramping up on a new project. And because we get paid for the work that we do, there's not really any financial needs for that. From my point of view, from a board perspective, we keep a very close eye on our burn rate. We cost a lot of money to run now. We pay the team well, and that is the heaviest part probably of our P&L. And we also keep an eye on our security that we've got in the bank. We are in a volatile industry. We have as balanced a portfolio as we can, but nothing is certain, and someone could ring us tomorrow and cancel 2 of our games. So we keep ourselves protected from that, but we don't have any debt. We've never had anyone external to the company be part of our board or our shareholding. So we're just moving on up now to see what the next decade holds. There's a lot of exciting things I would really, really love to share. Things that are games industry specific, that you would probably know because they are big titles that will be released soon, or at least announced soon. And then we've got some stuff going on in the region as well, which is really, really exciting. But I'm not at a point, obviously, where I can go into more detail with that. But yeah, we will very much be on the radar for a very long time.
And really interesting, isn't it, that although the title is finance director, clearly your role is far more contributing to the operational efficiencies, the commercial strategy, and making sure that really the financials back that up rather than worrying about the day-to-day payables, receivables. But what kind of systems, processes have you had to develop to support that? As you just said, only recently hired a financial controller, so you must have been dealing with a lot. How have you managed to streamline the financial processes, systems, and how has that changed?
Like I say, it's quite low maintenance. Honestly, it really is quite low maintenance. But all of the streamlining the processes, obviously there's more governance now because we're at the levels where we need to be audited. That's what I've hired Kirsty for. Yeah. That can be her job now.
Yeah. What would you say then has been the biggest challenges or the obstacles that you've encountered during the growth?
In the early days, staying safe and having work for everybody was always key. At the size that we are now, I think a lot more time from a senior leadership perspective goes into the people that we have in the company, how we can improve ourselves as a business, how we can look after our people more. What does that look like? Where's that going to look in the next 5 years? And because we did grow a lot in the last few years, especially through the pandemic, we grew while everyone was at home. So there was a big transition moving everyone back into the office as well. But yeah, we just want to look after our people because a lot of the running of the company when you're small, that kind of happens by default now. Yeah. I mean, it sounds like, we don't have to do anything. Obviously, of course we do, but they're different worries now. So yeah, I think we feel more responsibility now towards the people, given that the size that we are, and then that will spread out more to the community in the region, obviously, as time goes on.
And a couple of interesting points you've raised there that certainly I know a lot of the businesses we talk to are facing those exact same challenges. But one that's really topical right now is that getting people back from working at home to back to the office. How do you manage that? And what was, how was that transition received and how did you achieve it?
Yeah, well, we kept everyone at home for a really long time, probably more than most, because the level of kit that everybody has, especially in the development team, it's not portable. You can't just pick it up and plug it in somewhere else. And I think over that COVID period, every time we started to gear up to think about bringing people back, something would happen, or then there'd be another scare of some sort, and then we just kind of retreated. But I think whilst everyone was dubious and a little bit anxious and wary of each other initially, especially on those first interactions, the people that came back into the office quicker, it became very apparent very quickly that they prefer working in the office than they do to being at home. I feel like a caged animal at home. I don't mind maybe 1 day a week. But I think especially when you're collaborating a lot and you're working on projects together, from a creative perspective, it does work really well to have everyone in the studio.
Yeah.
Not everyone came back as easily. Obviously, there's been more transition and support for certain people. And we have a people and culture team that have assisted in that. And, I'd like to hope that everyone's being brought back in the right way for them. But yeah, everyone's back now and has been for a really long time.
Good. And I suppose two questions. You mentioned about the challenges of facilitating that growth from a people perspective. What were your recruitment strategies and what advice would you give to people? Because I imagine people that work up the majority of your workforce, games developers, are 20 years ago, might not have existed in Teesside. Thanks to the university and all the digital innovation that we see in Teesside, that's probably less of a challenge. But what have been the key recruitment challenges and how have you overcome those in recent times?
I think one thing we noticed in the pandemic was that obviously people didn't want to move or leave. We picked up a couple of permanent remote workers at that period because it was a necessity to have to hire in for project delivery. We also relocated a lot of people after the pandemic from different countries. The amount of different nationalities that we've got in the studio, even though we are in Middlesbrough, is really, really fantastic. I think probably the hardest thing with hiring at the moment is, some people do want fully remote, and in most cases we are trying to stay firm on the fact that we are a studio. We want people in the studio, and whilst we can have some hybrid work, and ultimately we want everyone to come in and collaborate, and our focus mainly as we move forward as well with some other exciting things that are going on in the region is that we give people more and more reason to come into work every day. And we see how that goes.
Really interesting to hear that international recruitment strategy in the face of Brexit, and a lot of businesses have almost closed their mind off to that, I think. But in terms of the retention and keeping hold of great people that you've hired, what do you think has had the biggest impact on being able to have brilliant success of keeping your best people?
Oh, that's I think it's a collection of things. First and foremost, people need security, so they're looking to make sure they're remunerated well. Think then they want to feel like they're looked after by their team. Next thing after that is obviously career development. And, we have a team of 3 people that are internal for learning and development only.
Right.
There's some really, really exciting things happening in that department I also can't talk about. But I would say career and then collaboration. We've got a really, really good set of people. We do lots of things with the team, and especially post-COVID, to try and get the teams working together, not just within their projects. We put a bus tour on every month. So we basically encourage all of the people to come on a Saturday and go out together for the day. And the company pays for that, whether it's everyone walking a mountain or whether it's Christmas markets in York or ice skating in the winter. And we do try and get people to spend time together outside of work as well. We've got basketball teams, we've got football teams. I'm trying to get a netball team off the ground at the moment as well, so that should be interesting. It's been a long time since I played netball, but it's like riding a bike, right?
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Just more injuries when you reach our age.
Probably. I'm not looking forward to those.
But it's really interesting to hear of a business, that is invested in that very heavily, head of people and culture, 3 L&D professionals. It's fantastic to hear. I suppose one final question, and Kimberly, conscious of time, is if you were giving some advice to a business owner on the value that an FD such as you could have, what would you say to that person?
Yeah, I don't think any business should exist without a really good person working in finance. And, if you're a small business, I think you're also capable of finding someone that can do everything from the ground up. I think entrepreneurs have that spirit whereby they have a vision and they know where they want to go. And if it's in their profession, then obviously they know how to progress that. But yeah, I think a really decent financial controller is not just someone that works in finance either. I think it is somebody that wants to be part of the bread and butter of a business and really get integrated into that and help plan for the future. So yeah, and I think similar to what I was saying about my career journey as well, yes, I'm a chartered accountant, but I'm a business owner and I run the business alongside 2 of my peers, and it's a really, really wonderful thing to bring to the table, as part of a leadership team as well. So yeah, I'm guilty of not having hired a financial controller for far too long. And in the last 3 weeks, I'm really seeing the benefit of that, and I feel like I need to give my head such a shake. Yeah, I've been in the weeds a little bit too long. I think I'm a glutton for punishment, but yeah, that's I'm looking forward to that progressing, and then I can start thinking even further forward ahead, and leading our teams obviously to even greater things. So yeah.
And sometimes it is difficult to recognise, isn't it? But it's what Lee did when he brought you in and said, I can see where we're going. I know what we need. I know the capacity I need to build for the future. Maybe as, finance director, having a number two, he's certainly going to give you that opportunity to continue to drive the commercial and the strategic success of the business. So, yeah, well done. But look, Kimberly, thanks for joining us. It's been a really interesting journey. We could talk all afternoon, I'm absolutely certain, as I know we have done in the past. But I know your diary is tight. So thank you very much for joining us today. It's really appreciated.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for having me.
And if there are any questions or queries or any questions that people would like to put to Kimberly, feel free, put my teeth back in. Please feel free to leave those in the comments. We'll fire those on to Kimberly and come back to you with any responses. But thanks again, Kimberly, and we'll see you very soon.
Thank you. Have a great day, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.